This episode is brought to you by the Bowhunters Challenge. Bowhunterschallenge.com is the place to check it out. And this challenge is a little 12-week challenge program that I've created just for bow hunters. This is where we really dive into bulletproofing your shoulders, making you guys kind of more resilient for the hills, making you healthy and fit individuals to make sure that you are ready to go hunting and make sure that you're in your peak performance state for when you do hit the hills, leaving no chance that you are the reason as to why your hunt is successful, or unsuccessful realistically. So what we're looking at here is a 12-week program where your nutrition is covered, your program, so your training, your physical fitness is covered, whether you have access to a gym or whether you're just doing training from home. I do have different options in regards to what route you can take there. So if you guys are interested in the Bowhunters Challenge, you can go to www.bowhunterschallenge.com. That's www.bowhunterschallenge.com. If you guys have any questions, you can also reach out to me on Instagram is the best place at becomingabowhunter.podcast. Thanks heaps, team. Enjoy this episode. Hey there, and welcome to Becoming a Bowhunter. I'm your host, Matty, and join me and our guests as we take the quality of meat back into our own hands, searching the wild for free-ranged animals to harvest as ethically as we can. I interview a variety of specialists from the bow hunting community to help fast-track your journey as a bow hunter. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this chinwag on one of your favorite topics in the world, bow hunting. Bow hunters, what is up? Welcome back to another episode. This week's episode is with Emily Corbett, and she is a reasonably new bow hunter. Actually, I think she's been bow hunting more than I have, or longer than I have, but it's just interesting to kind of hear her insights as to how she's come a long, long way from the very start. She talks about some funny stories from going out adventuring by herself in the bush versus what she's been doing recently, including a trip up to Strathburn. So I think this episode itself actually has some really cool stories and some really good takeaways. I think some of the biggest things, we talk about this during the podcast. I'm not actually going to spoil it. You guys have to listen till the end. So, I hope you enjoy it. I hope you're having a great 2021 so far. Great January. By all means, if you haven't already, make sure you do check out the Bowhunters Challenge, which is bowhunterschallenge.com. Thanks heaps, team. I hope you enjoy this episode. Alrighty, bow hunters, welcome back to Becoming a Bow Hunter. I'm Matthias Turner. Today, I'm joined by Emily Corbett. Em, welcome.
Thanks, Matty. Good to be on. I'm stoked that you invited me on.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I don't get to have that many ladies on, so I'm pretty pumped to have another beginner bow hunter who's a woman to jump on and talk to, hopefully, I guess just bow hunting in general, but also to a lot of the women, and hopefully you can inspire some others to get into it if they're on the fence.
Yeah, 100%. Be great.
So, I mean, your Instagram, just before we get started, is at mcorbett, which is Corbett 93. So, at mcorbett 93. They can follow along with some of your adventures there. But I kind of thought we'd start off with what's your background? Like, what's your background in hunting, fishing? When did you get started in it all?
Fishing, a whole nother ball game. That's sort of something that I have liked. It was just part of my life. I have an older brother that's 4 years older than me. It's just me and him. And yeah, ever since I can remember, my mum's not a fishwoman, not a let alone. So it's just sort of all my life. Dad has been pretty active in taking us out as a family camping, and my brother and he have always been fishing all my life. So yeah, that's sort of just, he's been a concreter all his life, so it was sort of every opportunity we'd go fishing, and now it's been pretty good. He's semi-retired and has a business now that's a hire boat and reef charter business in far north Queensland. So that's awesome. Yeah, visiting mum and dad's pretty fun now. But as bow hunting concerned, oh man, it was like 3 years ago I didn't even know it existed. So yeah, that's a big change in my life, I guess, once that sort of I was introduced to that. And
how did you get introduced to it?
I just this is like one of my favorite stories in the world. So I was actually in New Zealand. This was when I was still studying in Armidale. I was doing a Bachelor of Agriculture there. And my partner and I at the time went on a family holiday to New Zealand. We hired a couple of vans. It was a scenario where my parents went, his parents went. We each had a van, and we were waiting for a helicopter to pick us up to take us over some glaciers. So we're in the South Island. And we turn up and the guy's there and he's like, oh, you know, sorry, guys, your flight's going to be a little bit delayed. We've got some people on the mountain that we've been a little bit late in picking up. And I thought, oh, right. And he's like, so, yeah, we just got to go grab them. I don't know whether it was bad weather or not, but in my mind, I'm thinking, you know, a few people up there in, you know, those spiky poles, spiky boots, puffer jackets, Kathmandu decked out, been stuck up there, lost or whatever. So we're sitting there waiting and the helicopter comes in and I'm sort of preparing myself for these people to get off a little bit shaken. Who knows what had happened. And anyway, the chopper lands and dead set Matty, this sort of all happened in slow motion for me. These guys get off the helicopter and they looked so badass. It was ridiculous. Full decked out in camo, bows on their shoulder, shit hanging off them everywhere, like heads, hides, packs, everything. Pretty sure there was about 3 of them, possibly 4, kind of all turned into a bit of a blur for me because I just started fangirling hard. And I just thought, what is that? Like, what is that? And then I'm looking at them and they're coming off and I'm just like, instantly, I'm like, holy crap, I want to be that, you know, like it was so cool. And my dad was there, so he's sort of, we're very alike, so he starts thinking that that's pretty cool too. So he goes over and starts talking to them. Everything's sort of, I'm pretty useless by that point. I'm just hovering and fangirling and he's asking all the questions. I'm not taking much in. All I really gathered was that they were bow hunters and they were from New South Wales and Oz. And yeah, like pretty much from that moment, I jumped on the helicopter, we went up onto the glaciers and it sort of switched from me just being this tourist to me looking down and I could see all these little goats and stuff running around and I assume now that, you know, those guys were up there hunting tar and I guess my perspective just changed and I went, like, that is so cool. Like, what, how, all this stuff. And we get back in the van and it was pretty much week 1 of 2 weeks in New Zealand and it was all I cared about. It's all I wanted to know about. I was YouTubing, I was Googling everything under the sun to do with bow hunting. Like I knew archery existed, but I didn't realise that bow hunting was a thing. So that was in November 2017. And we get back to Armidale and I was a broke uni student, so it took me a little while to save up. And I jumped on, I'm pretty sure it was something like Facebook, Bowhunters New South Wales, something like that. And I started asking a bunch of questions like, I want to buy a bow. What do I get? Can I get some advice? All this stuff. And this guy contacted me and he's like, oh, I've got this bow. Bought it for my wife. There's arrows. There's field points. I don't think I had broadheads then in that little pack. But, yeah, I think it was like $200, $300. And I just went, yeah, done.
Yeah.
Buying it. So it turns up. And that's probably like, 6 months. Oh, no. And it turns up and I'm just so overly excited. I pull it out of the post pack. And the first thing I do, I don't even think I had my release date on. I just pull it back. Oh, no. And then I dry fired it. Straight up.
I was coming.
First thing I ever did.
Oh, no.
First thing I ever did. And shit just went flying, like ricocheting off the walls and the lounge, everything. And I was just like standing there shocked, instantly sad, wanted to cry. I'm looking at my bow. Everything sort of looked the same for me at that point. And I was like, I don't even know what's missing, you know? So I jumped back on this stupid, actually, jumped back on Facebook, like some silly damsel in distress, like, help, I did a thing. I need some help. I don't know what I did. Anyway, this guy jumps on and he's like, hey, I think, have you got this there and blah, blah. I think you've blown your peep out. And I ended up blowing my peep out and as well as the little level off my sight.
Yeah.
And he was like, where are you? I said, I was in Armidale. And he was like, well, I'm in Tamworth, which is only about an hour down the road. If you want to come this far, I've got a bow press. I'll help you out and I'll teach you some basics.
That's unreal.
I was like, thank you so much. 100% I'm there. So we talked a little bit on Messenger, and I think he realised how much I didn't know because I knew absolutely nothing. And, so I turn up to his house and he's gone and bought this new peep for me and everything. God love him. Anyway, it turns out that it's the same fucking guy that got off the helicopter in New South Wales.
That's incredible.
Oh, my God. And that man is Adam McCulloch. And it sounds a little bit dramatic, but meeting Adam has 100% changed my life.
Yeah.
Like, better. And since that moment, like, we walk into his shed, he's got shit everywhere. He knows exactly what he's doing. And his girlfriend at the time, Loz, now his wife and baby mama, beautiful girl. So sort of spent the afternoon there and gave me some pointers. And before I left, I said, can I please add you guys on Facebook? Can I be your friends? I need your help. And he was like, yeah, 100%. And dead set since that day, poor bloke. Probably didn't realise that it would be day in, day out for the next frickin' however long it's been, 3 years more, that Emily would be in his inbox like, what about this? How do I do this? Why is it like that? And he's just been the best, like, and not even like answering my questions like blah, blah. It's detail. Like it's the most detailed paragraphs of his own explanation followed by his own diagrams, little doodles on his friggin' markup on his phone, which was terrible, but I knew what he meant. Bless him. And then also like links attached, like go watch this YouTube, go look at this, look at this site. And then it would be like I'd look into it, I'd learn about, okay, like we have a bit of chat, like righto, so it's like this. And then he's like, yeah. And then he'd turn it around and sort of put it in a different scenario and be like, so if you had this and it was like that, what would you do? And it would be like a real like learning thing, like a tutorial. It wasn't just like, here's your answer. It was like proactive learning and like cannot thank him enough still.
That's unreal.
Yeah. So that was like so thankful for Adam. Like and I just feel like I think about other people that would be like me that maybe never got that opportunity to have someone like that to really hold your hand through it. Or even myself, if I didn't have that, how far behind I'd still be,
Yeah.
And then sort of from there, it was kind of like about 6 months later, once we got back from New Zealand, other things other than the bow contributed, but I broke up with my partner at the time and I just was pretty stuck on shooting targets and stuff. And I'd send photos and Adam was pretty encouraging, like send photos of you shooting the target. I want to see what your form's like and all that sort of thing. So he was pretty much my pen pal. And then I met a guy that was a mate of his and he was about 2.5 hours south of me. And he was off the target. Like you can't shoot target forever, Emily. Come on, come hunting. And we get along really well and lots of fun. Fucking funny guy, one of those guys that has a laugh that makes you laugh.
Yeah.
And I had a broken heart at the time, so I clung to him and we were hunting and started dating and that was huge. Like we were around Springridge area and sort of started off my first game that I started hunting was goats.
Yeah.
There was a few getting around and some pigs and stuff, but we mainly hunted goats and that in itself, just having that support there all the time to take that next step was huge. Yeah, but I shot, so that sort of met him sort of towards the end of 2018. And I think I shot my first goat actually on my own a month after I met him a bit in October 2018. And
awesome.
yeah, so then after we started shooting goats together, and we were together for about 6 months. And then I finished uni, got this job, we broke up, we went to territory, and I came up here. And that was big for me, because I kind of went from hunting goats with a support with me to like pigs and not much else in far north Queensland. Yeah, I'm based in Mareeba, northwest of Cairns, and it was scary. And I had this bow tech that was like 40 pounds. I don't know, like I just sort of, the more I got into it, the more I sort of lost a bit of faith in my gear, I guess, or like whether I thought it was enough to like be shooting pigs. And yeah, once I started to get out on some properties up here, it was like, well, I look back on myself and I'm like, you fucking idiot. Like, man, you put yourself in some stupid situations on your own with, like, I had denim shorts, a little camo shirt, and I'd be like on Running Creek Station in fucking Cape York with no GPS, no nothing. I'm just like cruising around some dry creek beds with some guy at caretaking that didn't really know where I was or what I was doing or whatever. But I still shot a couple, which was pretty cool. But but there was definitely times where I'd come up on a situation and I wasn't prepared and I was like shitting myself, and I was sort of like begging it to, when I wasn't ready, I'd like, oh shit, it's seen me. I haven't before I've seen it. Oh my God, please don't attack me. Like that was where I was, and everyone all the time, all through that process, which really was only last year still, that I was still scared, beginning of last year. And everyone is just, don't be stupid, Em. They're not going to attack you, blah, blah. I was like, well, I don't know. I'm scared. Anyway, I then sort of once I got this job, started getting some money coming in, I saved and bought something better. So I ended up with a Matthews Tri-X.
Yeah.
And I did a lot of research. So pretty much once I started getting into bow hunting, that was when I first downloaded Instagram.
Yeah.
I wasn't really a fan for that. And then I thought, well, not many people on my Facebook, like my nan and my family, want to see dead things or me attempting to shoot things. So I started this up and slowly got this little following together, and me following a bunch of people. And I always watched everything on YouTube pretty much. Like I'd shoot my target every day. I'd go home, have a bath in Armidale, and I'd set up my little laptop on the toilet seat and I'd watch bow hunting YouTube all night.
So good.
And bow hunt down under was a big thing. And then the Ozcut YouTube and just like every other little thing, American, Australian, everything. Ivan stuff was on there and I was just like, yeah, froth it, all of it. Anyway, so then I started getting this little community together and on Instagram, and these were people that I hadn't had much to do with, and I just drilled them with questions.
Yeah.
And should I get what do you use and why do you use it? And even just try to find out things that I could Google, and did a lot of research. So so I ended up with the setup that I've got now, and that was a massive game changer. Like then I went out on my own and I was shooting target way more consistently. Everything was just felt good, and then I went out there and my confidence even in that was the biggest messages, I guess, is like if you have confidence in your gear, it really changes the way you feel when you're out there.
I've definitely found that just in the change of bow recently that I went through. So I had a pretty good bow already, but then I did an upgrade and it's like top of the line 2020 model, and it's absolutely insane the confidence it gives me. And like shooting out to 40 easily compared to what it used to be. My groupings are so much tighter. I mean, that's with barely shooting as well. Like you don't have to shoot every day and you still have that consistency just with the change in gear, with the accuracy of it. Like it's crazy the difference that it made.
100%. Like, I love it. Like, you ask Brad whenever he's with me, he passes me my bow out of the car and I'm like embracing it like it's a small child. Like, I love it. It's so good. Love of my life. Yeah, so then I was out there and I shot a few sows and stuff like that, and then I was drilling Brad Smith all the time with questions, still drilling Adam, poor bugger, drilling pretty much everyone else as well.
Are you talking about before you went to Strathburn, or this is while you're out at Strathburn?
No, so this was before. This was last year, maybe, or very early this year, I think. And anyone who speaks to Brad, you'd realise that you always just get a voice message, not really a word response, which is annoying because I have this little book that I bought myself. It's just a little notebook, and I wrote on it, and I've called it Bowhunting for Dummies, which is my own book for that. Every time I drill someone with questions or I'm with someone and they can explain something for me, I write it down.
Yeah.
And it makes it complicated when Brad sends these stupid voice messages because I've got to be like, I'll be driving or I'll be doing something. I'm like, that's got to go in the book, damn it.
That's literally how I reply to everyone. It's like, I'm always driving. So it's like, wait, I'll send you a quick voice message.
Yeah, no, so it's been super helpful. So I think I was drilling him for a while, and, it would have been this year because we were coming up. It sort of just hit COVID because I was hoping to get back down around Armidale area because just before I left, I sort of hunted my first rut, I guess, fallow rut before I left. Perfect timing, and I was on my own. I had no idea what I was doing, and it was the coolest experience. Like, I turned up. This is how green I am. Like, honestly, I turned up, find this campsite on a mate's property that was at Carroll, and it was just me and Chunks, my dog, and we turned up and it was kind of on dark. So I'm setting up camp, cooking a bit of food, had to wash, and then there's all this croaking sound.
Yeah.
And there was one that just seemed right behind my head. And I was like, holy shit. And Chunks was like tied to the camp chair and he just took off and the camp chair was like dragging behind him. I was like, shit, Chunks, like grabbed him and I didn't know what it was. Like, I grabbed him and I was in my car and shut the doors with the windows up, message Adam, and I'm like,
there's big frogs here.
I was like, what sound does deer make, bro? Like, and then he's like, are you serious, Emily? You're out there trying to hunt the things, you don't even know what sound they make? And I'm like, me and Chunks are shitting ourselves inside my
so
car.
good.
And he's like, so wait, you can hear croaking? And I was like, dude, there is sounds coming from everywhere. Like, I was up on this ridge, there was valleys all around me. It's a really cool property. And he's like, I am. Tomorrow it's on. So the next day I get up and I'm just pinballing all over the place. Like, I'm following one croak, the next one sounds closer. I go to that. Like, for the first 2 days I didn't even see one. Like, I covered so much ground up and down the hills. Anyway, I was there for 4 days. By the last day, I'd gotten within probably 30 meters and I was just shaking like a leaf. My adrenaline was off its head and I'd never felt that before. Like, I was just like, holy crap, pull yourself together, Emily. And yeah, I was just busted every time. It was just a really cool experience. So, and then on the very last day, I was meant to go back because I was meant to get to rugby in town and I was like, nah, one more morning. So I got up, down, and everyone I was talking to online was like, go, Emily, find the scrapes, find the sign, whatever. And I was like, what's a scrape? Like, I don't even know what that is. But anyway, I worked it out. And then by the last morning, I'm walking up from this one patch of colour, beautiful animal, and chasing some girls around up on the top of this hill. And I was like, all right, I'm just going to see how close I can get. And then I'm walking up, so I'm in this little bit of cover. I had to cross this clearing to the next cover, and I get there. And he chased some girls off. And then I was like, all right, well, I'll see if I can get from there to, like, the next tree. So I'm walking up there slowly, quietly, in my denim shorts, my little camo shirt. And then he comes back, like, heaps faster than I expected. So I'm stopped in this clearing. And then all of a sudden he just decides to come down the hill. So he's walking down the hill and he's just swaying his head from side to side, and I'm stuck. I can't move. I can't breathe. I'm just this thing in the open. And oh God, here we go. And he's coming right down beside me, and I'm like, shit, he's going to get on the other side of me and smell me anyway. So I'm like, I should draw. I'll try to draw. So I'm like shaking so much that I can't even draw. Like I'm halfway and I'm just rattling. I'm surprised he didn't even hear me. My bones would have been jiggling around in my body. And then I'm just looking at him, and it just felt like it was taking forever. And then he just sort of just stopped, swung his head and looked at me, and I was just frozen in this clearing, and it felt like, you know, like light years had passed.
Yeah.
And then I'm looking at him, and he just sparks in my face, and I shit myself. I screamed. And then he ran off, and I literally fell on the ground. I was laying on my back, just breathing heavy, like shaking like shit, thinking that was the coolest thing that has ever happened. And then, yeah, so that was my last experience in Armidale. So I was trying to get back down there for this rut. And so I contacted Brad mainly about that. And I said, I really want to do one of your bow hunting courses, things that he holds down there, and blah, blah, blah. And then COVID happened, and I couldn't get down there, and I was still sort of drilling him with questions. And he messaged me, and he was on his way back from Strathburn, and he's like, look, I'm coming home. I got a few days. Do you want me to come with you out onto one of your properties, or you can come out onto this place and I can, you know, see what you're doing, and I can try and pick up whether you're doing anything wrong or right? Because I was like, I hadn't had anyone hunt with me for ages, that I was kind of like, fuck, am I even doing it right?
Yeah.
That I was sort of, my brain process was like, oh look, there's footsteps, there's shit, there's this, there's that. And then it's like, look up, oh, bang, there's a pig. It's already looking at me. Damn it, you know. But slowly I sort of got better at understanding that, okay, things are starting to feel a bit sexy, you know, like shit's turning on. Slow down, first, you know. So, yeah, I feel like I was sort of a lot better than when I first started, when I first went hunting with Brad. But, yeah, he sort of just helped and said, yeah, like you're pretty slow, like, and it's good. Like, I guess the best thing about maybe hunting on my own from the beginning was that I am slow about it. I'm not overly confident, and especially like with my shots, it's like if it's not on, if I don't feel like it's going to be a money shot, I don't take it, because at that point the first thing I was looking for was a tree because I thought I was attacked. But yeah, so, and then we had that hunt, and he was like, oh, you know, you're right. Like, first thing, just put your bow up in front of your face, you know, like heaps of little things that obviously add up to huge impact on how it all pans out in the scrub. But do you
remember any of them? Like, obviously holding the bow out in front, you meaning when you're stalking up on an animal.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you can kind of remember that he'd given you, tips wise?
Yeah. So when I sort of first started, it was kind of like I'd be walking around and I'd see pigs, and I'm like, all right, I've got to get there. I've got to get there and get within 20, and then I can take my shot. And that was a huge pressure thing. Like, I'd be like working my hardest to get to that point. And then by the time I got there, everyone sort of knows that once you get there, they're already on their move or on their way to somewhere else. So it's like, shit, like everything happens really quick once you're within range, I guess. And so one of the biggest things that I've sort of taken away is using my binos more. And that's another thing that's really important, making sure you have binos that you can sell out of. The ones I had at the time were pretty shitty. But at least I had some. But yeah, and like just, I guess, trying to read the animal and kind of predict a bit about what it's going to do next. So you're looking at it from afar and you're planning it out, you know, like you're not getting into range and then going, okay, shit, what do I do now? You know, it's like looking at it, reading the situation. Okay, if I go there, set myself up there, they should feed this way or they should do whatever. And then you sort of work it out from there. And definitely once you get to that point, range a few things, you know, range a tree here, range a tree there, work out how far is that? That's 20. Okay, cool. I've got this. Stand back from, you know, for me in the beginning, I was hiding behind stuff, you know, and that sort of limited what I could do with if they sort of changed direction. It was like, oh shit, I got to shuffle back to get my bow around there and that sort of thing. So just sort of set yourself up a lot better. And if you're set up, you've ranged a few things in your mind, you're confident, and everything is just so less stressful.
Yeah,
you know, like, and you've got way more opportunity of it working out, I guess. Whereas before that, I was kind of like running in, oh shit, God, it's 8 meters, fuck, shoot it, whatever. Or shoot it because you're not confident, you know. But yeah, so there's been a lot of stuff. And then being in Mariba, I have had coffee and caught up with Matty and Dan, his girlfriend, Daniela, a few times, and beautiful people, love them to death. And this year was kind of like okay, I need to get to Strathburn kind of year. And I got paid for work a heap. So I sort of got stuck down in Longreach and Charleville for almost a couple of months. And then I come back and, yeah, I was trying to just sort of beat the weather, I guess, before the wet season set in. And Brad was on his way up and he said, look, I reckon we got to go second week in November, otherwise we're sort of going to miss the opportunity. Yeah. I said to work, like, something I've got to do. I've got to do it. I cannot be here. So, yeah, so we went up there and Strathburn was insane. Like when I was at Charleville, I got on to a property down there and I shot a couple of pigs down there, which was awesome. And that in itself was a big sort of milestone for me, I guess. Like that was a whole nother feeling. Like I'd been on a couple of hunts with Brad by then and yeah, I was just super confident and I was tracking animals, you know, not just like seeing them and trying to work out what I can do. Like I was tracking them down and then I'd find them and then made it work a couple of times. And that sort of for me was like, oh yeah, girl, like
together,
you can do this. It was really cool. And then I guess with the whole boar thing, like there was a property that this year when I set my New Year's resolutions, this year was going to be the year of the hunt, basically. Like I'd had getting my new bow. I just wanted to get out there and sort of get it done. And I just had this real desire to get there, but I just was sort of, my own confidence was limiting and I needed to focus a lot more on it within myself. And so that's sort of what I did. And there was one time, there's a video up on Instagram, we were out on a property out near Mount Surprise actually, and there was a lump of a boar. And Brad was with me, he was filming, and we sat off it for 3 hours. And we went back in, cattle everywhere.
Yeah.
Fucking cattle. During the week, my favourite animals in the world. On the weekends when you're bow hunting, the worst things in the world. Such a pain. But, yeah, so we sort of moved in, moved out, moved in, moved out, moved in, moved out. It was hot. It was annoying. And then he sort of was feeding along this dam, eating little mud mussels, and just kept edging up. And, yeah, by that last moment, we were like, it's on. Like, this is going to happen. And 100% had my heart set on it. I was like, this is the moment where Emily shoots her first boar. It's fucking huge. It's going to be sick, blah, blah, blah. It didn't work out. The wind, all of these things that contribute to everything failing out there. And, yeah, that was probably, like, I don't chuck tantrums or anything, and I'm always super stoked even just to be...
Just to see them, right?
Within,
just to be out there, yeah.
Even if it goes away. And, like, before I even started, you know, once I was definitely getting my confidence up, I had... Nick Morton was a big, contributor to building my confidence. He was one of the ones that sort of talked me through when I was buying my stuff, and a big support. And, like, I'd go for hunts and then he'd call or I'd call after it and I'd talk through it and just be like, oh, I was this happened, and I don't know why it's happening, and blah, blah, blah. But he sort of said, just to get your confidence up within bow range, just start filming them, you know? And so I got the same property. I'm probably getting left and right. My stories are all over the place.
No, that's fine.
But property where that boar was earlier, it was like straight after the wet season. I came in, snuck in on this swamp, and there were pigs everywhere, and they were just feeding. And I thought, this is so cool. There was brolgas. It was beautiful. And I was like, man, like this is what it's about, you know, like, and I just thought, yeah, I'll just film this, you know. And I just sat there under this log in my camo, and this was when I actually had camo too. Huge difference. And I just sat there and just filmed them and just watched and listened, and like just being close and watching how they behave also so important.
Yeah.
Big like influence on how you work it all out later. But so that was sort of cool. And then so back to this boar, same property, and I thought, this is going to happen. And then I got within probably 30, and I did my usual snuck into this tree a little bit too close because he had nice big hooks. And the cattle down the dam must have got my scent, and they just galloped, and he lifted his head, trotted out. I was stuck in behind this tree. I moved out, and then there was just scrub everywhere. I drew back, but I kept my finger locked behind that release aid pretty tight because I was like, like I'll draw back, I'll watch him run away through my sight for sure. But that's what I did. Watched his ass tail off into the bush, and I was shattered. Like, I definitely had my heart set on that. And I turned around, I looked at Brad, and he was just like pretty well gutted for me as well. Get back in the car, and I'm one of those people, like, I won't have a tantrum, I won't really cry unless I'm really frustrated or angry, but I was very silent. What I do is I just so we get back in the car, and God bless him, he got all of the gates. And I just in silence back to camp. But so that was sort of, I spoke to Matty about that too. I spoke to a lot of people, and I was just like, look, Em, like, that's what's going to happen, and that's going to happen a lot, you know. And I was like, oh man, but they're like, at least you watched it run away, you know. It's not running away with an arrow in its ass because you were
something stupid
away and you wanted to take a shot, you know. So that's when it's sort of like talking to Matty. He's like, you need to come up, I want to get you on some boards and blah blah blah. So second week of November, we went up there, and it was perfect timing. They had a couple of fires through there already. They'd had a little bit of showers, but nothing serious. But it was hot. It was so hot, and it was still. And I guess like the first day, we put my bow in a press up there, and that was the first time that I had my bow in a press since I had it. And the bottom cam was a little bit out of time, and we put some turns in the cables and just got it all Mickey Mouse and shot through some paper and tuned it right up. Brad had done a pretty good job tuning it before that, but like I'm new arrows now, shooting new Nexus arrows. So it was just wanted to get it bang on. And so I'm sitting there on the floor with my little Bow Hunting for Dummies book, writing all my notes down with Matty and Brad, just word vomiting out every bit of information you can imagine. And so we'll spend the first full day just shooting and good about it, I guess. And then day 2, so I was up there for about a week. Day 2 was same thing, a bit in the morning, and then it was after lunch. It was all pretty cruisy. Like there was just sort of, when we get out there, we get out there. There was no real rush, which was good. And we got onto this spring system, and we were looking out, and there was a younger boar there, and he sort of pushed this other one out of his little wallow, and he took off. And at that time, we were sort of all standing there on the hill, and we're looking, and we're like, oh, it's just a little fella, you know. and then put the binos on it, and he like had toe drag, bony hips, everything. Like he was old.
Yeah,
Probably shot the oldest one in the area. But yeah, so he cruised off, and I was like, what, is it good? Like, are we on? Like, whatever. And I looked at Matty, and Matty's just cheesing. And he's like, yeah, we're on. So we took off after it, and holy crap, it was so hot. And he was old, but he had some pace, man. Like, he was going from A to B, like, set on it. And, yeah, so we were all fine. It was me, Brad, Matty, and Dan. And, yeah, we were just sort of hanging off him. Like, he was up on this pad, and we were back. There was a bit of clearing. We were back in this tree line type of thing, just keeping an eye on him as he went. And then it just got to this point, and Brad just sort of turned around and he was like, we're going to leave you guys here. Em, drop your pack, have a big drink of water. We're going to, make this happen.
Yeah.
Okay. And, like, I don't know if you've met Brad, but he's got really long legs, and he was running. And so he had really long legs, which meant Emily was, like, almost in a sprint. It was like we were just pacing it through the scrub to get around him pretty much. And then we come up and we crossed over the top of the hill, and then sort of like stopped, and it was like, oh shit, I think we've gone too far, turn around. And then he was this pig was working his way down the pad just behind us. And we were trying to see where Matty and Dan was. And then we raced back, and then it sort of turned and came up across the flat, and I just jumped in behind this tree. And yeah, like, Brad helped me call him up, and by help me, he called him up. And he was looking at me, and I was like, you're dead, bro. Like, sorry, this is it. This is happening. Yeah. And shot him, and it was a good shot. And he actually went a little bit further than we sort of expected for the shot. But, yeah, that happened. So that happened on day 2. And I think the best thing after that, which is what these guys do, and something that I also have realized is really important, is when you take a shot, get an animal down, that whole, like, Brad sort of showed me from cutting that shoulder out, like taking that leg off, looking at the lungs, looking at the heart, trying to work out shot placement and actually what that's doing and where that's hitting, all of those sort of things. So, like, got this ball down, all good. But then it was kind of like we're all standing around, and it's like, okay, like, it sounds a little bit, I don't know, maybe like a bit inhumane or a bit gruesome or whatever, but we sort of set him up in all different angles, because I haven't still, like, I've shot maybe two pigs that have been bedded. Yeah. And you really don't realise, like,
how much
as a beginner.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, how much of the animal is like sort of under the ground level. Yeah. Like where the ground sort of meets their shoulder when they're bedded, you're like, oh, cool. And it's really like instinctive to shoot on that, like still up on that shoulder a bit. Yeah. Whereas like once you sort of get a better understanding of how much of the animal's chest is under that ground, that you really need to be shooting right on that ground level, also depending on the angle that it's sitting at. But so that was sort of something that we did. Like on that day 2, we sort of set him up in all different angles with his, back to me, laying flat. Like it's never always perfect when you're out there and you come across something, And I've been pretty, I guess I've been pretty lucky, but it's also been when I've been shooting, if it's not broadside and it's not something that I'm confident in taking the shot at, I don't take the shot. Yeah. I don't know whether it's missed opportunities or whatever, but it's like if it's not on for me, it's not on. Whereas like Matty's like, you can still take these animals. I don't know where to shoot them. So I had like, I've watched a lot of stuff and I have a pretty good idea on where to shoot them, but I just haven't done it practically.
Yeah, I think that's very invaluable, right? Like that lesson that you would have learnt just that day doing that is incredible. It's something that I did when we went out to just like an archery range, and they've got just the picture setups, and I was with probably 4 or 5 other guys, and I was like, okay, where would you put your placement? Like, where would you shoot on this animal? And it was interesting just to hear the different, like from the 5 different people that were there, just what each person said slightly different. Like, oh, I'd go double lung here, or oh, I'd definitely go heart shot here. And it's just interesting, especially once you transfer to a pig, like their vitals sit a little bit lower than a regular animal, right? Like rather than a deer or anything else. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's also like, you know, even when it's getting dark or when it's like a situation, I think you sort of just go Santa Mass, you know, and it's your brain just naturally goes there, I think. And this was sort of that step up from being a little bit better, where you're looking at an actual animal, you know, and it's actual body, it's in a position, and you're like, okay, you know, where would you shoot this? And you're like, oh, maybe there. And then it's like, well, no, because here and here, you'd shoot it here. Like, so we set up, this pig up in like a heap of different ways, but one of them was like it laying on its side, like flat on its side with its back to me. Yeah. So I'm looking at like the back of its shoulders,
spine,
all the way down. They're like, all right, Em, like, where would you shoot this? I was like, I wouldn't shoot that, to be honest. And they're like, well, that's kind of good because you're not really there yet, but we'll show you where you can shoot it, because that's, you know, if you've got that shot, you can easily take that animal, you know. So they pointed, and I took a few shots back from 20, and then, yeah, like we go and look at where my arrow was and where it came out, and like, yeah, that would have taken out like all of the vitals and whatever from where I shot it. And I was like, oh, okay. And yeah, there was times where we were walking up the creek, and I think the biggest challenge, Strathburn, like, I don't know, those that follow me on Instagram would have put up that little photo of me crying, because it's reality that it's stressful and it's frustrating. And I guess I had so many opportunities. Like, I very rarely have come across boars where I'm like, okay, like it's on, you know, whereas like, geez, like Strathburn, you'd have like 6 a day, you know, 6 opportunities a day. But the conditions up there at the time was really still. The wind was all over the place. Like, it was really hard, and it was dry, cornflake leaves under your feet, like, and I guess like you come into an opportunity and you really were on the clock as to when the wind would change, you know. And I think still where I'm at now, my thought process of, okay, there it is, binoculars on it, where do I want to shoot it? How far is it? Okay, cool. Draw back, process of like draw, anchor, you know, sight, level, where's your peep on your sight, all this stuff, and then find the exact point that you want to hit. And then it's like, by that point, wind on the back of your neck and it's gone.
Yeah.
And you're like, shit. But but awesome still, like invaluable experiences, those, you know, just having that within bow range. And it's pressured, but yeah, like it gives you a lot of confidence too, having Matty and Brad and Dan behind you. Like, up until early days, I didn't have the backup, you know, so I probably wasn't, not risking anything, but sort of pushing myself a bit, I guess. But yeah, there was definitely times that we were coming up creeks and there was pigs in angles that aren't perfect broadsides, you know. And even the best thing also is that they always got the camera rolling.
That's
so my favorite thing, it's unreal. And that's something I wish I could do. I wish I could do full stop, because I don't do it. But to be able to do that well, even when you're out there on your own, like I've sort of been thinking GoPro on my quiverizer, just to sort of, so I can come back and replay sort of what happened, because it all turns into a very fast blur in your mind when you reflect on it, I guess. But to every afternoon come back to camp, they've got a big TV up and they put the video up, and it didn't work out. Like, it was a drawdown or they blew out or whatever. You can freeze frame it or slow it down frame by frame. And I was jumping up on the on the bench and like pointing to it, like, okay, so I would have, this is where I was going to hit it. Like, this was my plan, you know, and then to have that experience there to talk about it is
definitely.
just amazing.
And so that's always the case when you're at Strathburn, they'll always film it for you?
I'm pretty sure. Like, I'm pretty sure Matty's always got a camera.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, and another thing that he did for me, which was awesome, was that he had, and which he runs through all the time with these beginner bow hunters course and stuff that he runs up there, is a shot placement thing, but they're actual like real photos of people that have been in situations on Strathburn, and he'll put the photo up and he's like, okay, so, you know, what do you reckon? Similar to what you're talking about. And I was jumping up there, like pointing with my finger, and like this is where I'd hit it. And then he'd flick the next photo over, and he's got like a dot on where he would hit it, you know. So yeah, I guess, I don't know. It was a weird learning curve. Like, I think I lost some confidence because I was like, man, I'm just not there yet, you know. But then I was also like, I've gained so much knowledge and I really can't wait to get back out there. I'm going to go hunting with James on New Year's Day, and that'll probably be the first time that I'll be back out hunting since Strathburn, and I can't wait. But yeah, so that video is awesome. And there's videos there that I've seen of like their own hunts as well where things haven't worked out, you know, and they describe it as to why it didn't, or where they could have done better, or, you know, where they went wrong and all this sort of thing. And I think probably I'm super grateful of how I've just had these core people in my life since starting bow hunting, or since getting into it, that are just like so knowledgeable, you know. Like, I haven't really, like, I've started as a kid and my dad didn't know much about it, and I've just sort of fucked up for the first 6 years, you know. Like, it's sort of like, I definitely have fucked up, don't worry, but it's like that support there.
But
and
I think something really important to point out, Em, is the fact that you've actually asked for help the whole way. Like, so many people would probably be listening to this and thinking, well, she's so lucky, she's got all these people helping her out. But really, you're the person that asked a bazillion questions from the start that helped you to get the support, and people actually understand that you're 100% keen on it. Like, they're willing to put in the effort to you because you're willing to give them back. And it's like any mentor situation, someone who's willing to work hard is someone that you want to be mentoring, because that's like the perfect mentee, essentially. So I think credit to yourself is the fact that you've been willing to actually ask for help, which I think is the difference between a lot of men and women. The fact that women are typically willing to say, hey, I have no idea, what's the go, like, help me out, whereas so many men would be like, I have no idea, I'm going to figure it out myself. And that's where the journey might take 5-6 years for them, whereas it's like you've always put your hand up and said, hey, I'm stuck, what do I do here? And I think that's probably a big difference. It's something that's really worth pointing out, because I think having hunting buddies and having someone to be able to lean onto, which I think the bow hunting world is really good for. Like, really, you can pretty much reach out to any of these dudes on Instagram that you've literally just talked about, and they'll give you a reply. It might not be straight away because they're busy individuals, but they'll typically get back to anyone who asks them a question.
Yeah, 100%. And like, I don't know, there might be some people out there that think, oh, it's because you're a girl, you get helped out or whatever. But like, you ask any of these guys that I have, you know, asked questions, and it's not just like, you know, I have a question, can you help me? It's like, I have a bazillion questions, and every question I have 10 other questions after that. And it turns into like, oh shit, like, I've really got to like sit down and talk to this chick because she really needs help or whatever. Or she's not going to give up. And I have persisted. Like, every time I've asked someone a question, it's like, hey, it's me again. Like, I still have that question. Like, blah, 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 whatever. But I cannot be more thankful for definitely Australia's bow hunting community. Like, there are so many there that I haven't even met. Like, people like Jack Spinks, Randy, you know, James I've only just recently met, but we've been talking for a year.
Yeah.
I haven't. He's fucking like, sorry, I stop swearing. But he's like constantly helping me out, you know, and like they're just there for you all the time, and they're there for each other. You can see that. And I haven't had much to do with America's bow hunting community yet, but like even as people I've met through Brad, Harry, like Summers especially, like haven't met Summers yet, but he's so helpful. And there is just a huge knowledge base. I think like the biggest thing also is that there's a lot of knowledge in people like, you know, Brad and Adam and Summers and stuff that's, no offense, but they're getting older, and I don't want to lose that, you know. I've been trying to encourage people like Adam, or like to like do, like you've got Knock on TV and stuff, but that's like American and whatever. But there's our Aussie blokes that know so much and quite elite in this field that I'm like, please do like YouTube channels and stuff for people like me that are starting, you know. Like I've been very thankful that I've had them there and willing to answer my questions. But yeah, those people that are a bit shy or whatever, that don't have the confidence to ask the questions or even don't know what to ask, like they're you don't know what you don't know either, you know. And there's a lot that I'd learned that I'd ask a question and then, you know, Adam would answer it and I'd be like, what? Like, but how do you get there? And then it just flows,
well, it's like the
and then you end
question,
up
right? Like you had the ability to ask what the heck's a scrape? Like they're like, find a scrape. You're like, what's a scrape? Like I remember when I was very first going out, it was like the first rut that I had a chance to go out on. I messaged Kev Schilth and I was like, hey man, what's like what do red deer scrapes look like? And he's like, I don't think they have scrapes. I'm like, oh. Like it was literally just, I thought that all deers did scrapes. And then,
well, there you go, I didn't even know that.
yeah. And so I was like, he's like, they might have a wallow somewhere. He's like, but they're not going to scrape. I'm like, okay, so that was just a random dead patch of dirt that I was looking at. Like, it's just funny, right?
Yeah.
It's those situations where you have to admit that you don't know enough about what you're doing. You just need to ask the questions.
Mm-hmm. And you really just got to put yourself out there. Like I was definitely scared. Like once I didn't have someone that was alongside me anymore, I was shitting myself. But, you know, like I'm like, wouldn't matter what I was chasing or where I was, that you just got to get after it, because you learn a lot from people 100%. Like you learn so much from people that have been there, done that, whatever, but you learn so much on your own and so much about yourself too. And like everybody hunts differently. Like you go out with different people, you know, you realize that they have their own process on how they approach something or whatever. It's fast here and then it's slow there, or it's slow the whole time, or it's really fast and you're like, holy shit, dude. But yeah, like you have to sort of work it out for yourself, take things from other people, and then, you know, stick with things that you know that work for you and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm definitely still very green and have a long way to go, but I feel like I'm very grateful for the opportunities that I've had, people that I've met, the people that still talk to me every day that have gotten me to this point in, I don't know what, like a matter of 2 years from hunting. So super grateful.
Yeah, it's unreal. So, I mean, like at the moment, pigs have really been your bread and butter. What does that mean for the future? Like, what's your goal coming into 2021?
Yeah, pigs have been bread and butter because it's really hard to get onto a property with deer down around Charlestown. It helps that I work within the beef industry, so I work with station owners and beef producers and stuff all the time, but even most of those people like look like generational through the property. We've had guides or hunters on here that make a living out of it, you know, and you can't take that away from them. But definitely now that I have a better job, I can save some money, and I'm more than happy to pay for, you know, do some different hunts and things like that. I went and bought a deep freezer recently because I really would like to be able to start getting better and hopefully shoot my own deer that I can harvest myself.
Yeah.
But I'm really starting to love pigs. Like they scared the shit out of me to start with, but you know, you cruising through the bush, you see that little black thing and you're like, oh, yeah, here we go. Like, there's something different about it.
I've always had a fascination with them. Like I've only ever had them on my block once. They kind of snuck on once, and that was when James actually came down and did a hunt with me. But outside of that, I just haven't had them come back again. I'm so like, I'm longing to get some pigs down. I'd love that. That's kind of the next goal for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Like, I think it was like awesome for me to start out on them on my own once I was up here, because I wasn't nervous around deer. I wasn't nervous around goats. I love goats. I miss goats. But like, it's definitely getting my confidence up with pigs has helped me a lot too. Like, just sort of, if I sort of moved from a place where I went from goats to goats, I reckon I probably would have been right. But I had to overcome this stupid fear that I had within myself on pigs, and that's been a lot of growth on my own as well. So, but yeah, I definitely want to try and get down around Charters Towers a little bit more. I really hope that COVID sort of pulls its head in this coming year and I can get down again for a fallow rut as well. That'd be awesome. And now it's like, bow hunting, I think about it a lot, and it's like I think about trips that I want to do, elk hunts. My God, I'd kill to do an elk hunt. I'd kill to get back over New Zealand. I'd love to get back over to New Zealand and do the thing that first got me into it. But I don't know, like it's not like I want someone to hold my hand. I kind of want someone to hold my hand just because I have, like, my Roomba vacuum has way more sense of direction than I do, and I like it's a bit dangerous cruising out there on my own. Like, I get lost in my own hometown, let alone out in the hills on my own. But yeah, it's definitely something that I want to build up to, and I hope that one day I can try to absorb this knowledge and maybe help someone in the future way down, but that's sort of in a scenario like me. But I definitely hope that I don't lose it.
You might have to publish your book, Bowhunting for Dummies, eh? It might be a hit one day.
Oh, I reckon I could sell it, hey.
Yeah, definitely. I think realistically, like, it's so cool that that's how you got into it as well. Not the Bowhunting for Dummies, but it was literally just seeing people come off of a helicopter that was like the thing that really drew you in. And it makes me wonder, like, I wonder what would happen if we were to start driving around in our camo more and hopping out at service stations in your camo more and stuff like that. Unfortunately, in Australia, it's really frowned upon. I think you'd probably get more abuse than you would get questions. But within saying that, like in New Zealand in particular, you see people in their camo all the time. Like, they get around in it, and it's awesome. I think it sucks that Australian culture isn't as accepting as that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's just one of those things. It's just lack of knowledge, like people who don't know, you just form a social opinion of it, I guess. But I don't know, for me at that point, I maybe I would have thought they were rifle hunters or whatever, but they had bows and stuff, and I thought, what is that? What is that? I want to be. And it really is that thing that's in your face, and you just go, what? Like, I never seen that before. That's so cool.
Yeah. Actually, I've kind of stayed away from putting a lot about hunting on my own personal Instagram page. I've kind of used this platform to really talk about hunting and show hunting and stuff. But I finally put up a post the other day about it, and it wasn't a grip and grin shot. It was literally just the sausages that I'd made recently. And I put it up, and I put up a big story about what hunting is to me and why I hunt and how much it all provides the meat and that side of things. And that typically I think about the animal a lot more than if I was to just go to the shops and just buy a packaged piece of meat. And I wasn't really sure how it was going to be accepted. And I was blown away with the response from people that don't know that I'm a hunter that were like, oh my God, this is incredible. Like, good on you, dude. This is so cool. To really see the responsibility that's taken from a hunter's perspective. And I think that it was kind of a bit of an eye-opener. It's not like I'm going to start putting up my heart shots or my full grip and grin shots to the public, but it's like, okay, maybe it is a little bit more accepting if you are to go the right way about it. And so it's definitely something that I probably think I will take after or start to talk about a little bit more.
Yeah. And I think, I don't know, I feel like people don't realize the background that you feel when you're bow hunting. Like, I guess me, when I sort of say that I'm a bow hunter for a hobby or whatever like that, they sort of, I guess it comes across as a bit butch, I guess. But it's kind of like meditation, you know, like I
Definitely.
grew up in northern New Zealand. We had 75 acres of bush, and I had an older brother, so we were always building cubbies out of sticks in the scrub, and we were always bushwalking. And yeah, like I've always been a bush baby, I guess. But once I started bow hunting, it's like it was almost like my senses
instinctual,
just like went tenfold.
Yeah.
It sounds stupid. It's like I was blind, but now I see. You know, like it was like, yeah, I saw more. Like I could see things that I never even noticed before. I could smell things like the raw earth. Like I could smell shit. I could smell pigs. Like I could smell things that were happening or had previously happened not long before I just got there. And even just noticing the wind, you know, like the wind is there all the time. But once you start bow hunting, you're really alert and aware of how strong it is, what direction it's coming from, you know, even just how much it changes between the landscapes, whether you're uphill, downhill, on this bend or walking up. Yeah, wherever you are. And like, even just being out there and walking around, you know, you can hear the birds. You could always hear birds, but now you realize you're looking at them being like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, exactly.
Stop blowing my cover.
They're reacting to me.
They're really dobbing you in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, you're like, oh, God, they're so beautiful. You're like, stop it, you know. But, yeah, you just sort of notice a hell of a lot more. And that's sort of what I love about it most is like, okay, if you get in on an animal and everything works out perfectly, if it's something you can harvest, that's a whole nother level of amazing. But even if you don't see something, or even if you see something and it gets away, the process leading up to that, just walking out of camp, walking along, smelling things, hearing things, feeling super connected is like such a feeling, you know, and it's really hard. It really is hard to explain to someone who isn't a bow hunter, you know, and it's very hard. A lot of my friends up in far north Queensland up here, you know, everybody dogs up here. They all have pig dogs, and it's like...
It's quite a brutal act, right? Like to the outside.
I don't know. Like, I feel like with most things, there's a lot of levels to it. Like, some people don't take care of their dogs. They don't train their dogs. They don't do things properly. Or, you know, they'll get it. They'll make it happen really quickly, or they're dickhead and they drag it out forever and they film it and they're rednecks and you're like, oh, shut up doing it. But it's very hard to have a conversation because you're on totally different levels, you know, unless they've sort of done like rifle hunted before as well, where they've done the stalk hunt, they sort of get you. But it's so hard to sort of explain where you're coming from, I guess. And there's been a couple, like I've had a couple of mates up here that have, you know, gone and bought a bow out of a tackle shop and went and tried it. And they've gotten into range, or they see footage of like pigs everywhere, and everyone's like I've had mates that have been like, you know, you just don't see that when you're dog hunting. And you're like, well, duh. You know, like, of course you don't see that. But that's the coolest thing about it. You know, you're ninjaing into these situations where they don't know you're there. And you're seeing everything. You're seeing them in their little life and all this sort of thing. And I think that's also something that's super cool about the deer scenario, and like, or any sort of scenario where you're harvesting an animal, is that you know exactly how the last moments of its life went, you know, and it's so organic and so cool. And like that, the first goat I ever shot was a little Billy, and it stank, and I gun that thing the best that I could and cut everything off it that I could, and I ate this dirty young Billy, but it wasn't that great. But yeah, I was kind of like, no, this is the process, you know.
Exactly. You got to honor it. Yeah, no, it's so cool. And it's something that I'm still going through with my red deer that I got recently. It's just literally like going through the process every weekend. I'm like, okay, what new recipe can I try? How can I try to make this a different meal, and doing bits and pieces like that. But I've actually got a goat skin. It was the first Billy that I took. And it just sits on our lounge chair, and it's so soft. I just play with it all the time. It kind of just reminds you of that little process that happened.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's super special, but something that is very hard to explain. Obviously, most of the people listening to this understand it, though.
But yeah, I guess I'm a bit like you. Like, that's sort of why I started the Instagram thing, because people on my Facebook don't want to see it. But things on my Facebook that I'll put up is, you know, more scenic photos, I guess, about everything else that you experience when you're out there, not necessarily the kill.
Yeah, I think for me, like in my personal Instagram, it also highlights a lot of my business stuff. And for a long time, we were working, like, we were a nutrition company. We were working with people who were vegans or vegetarians, like in that space as well. So it was more out of I guess a protection / sign of respect, or like, hey, everyone's got their own opinions, but what I wasn't sharing was my opinion on things. And I think that's where I was kind of like, you know what, you need to stop biting your tongue so much and actually share it. But I think it depends on the way that you share it will be the difference as to whether it affects me, myself, or my business at all. It's all down to how you actually portray that thing. If it's literally just like a, hey, whack and stack, here you go, then of course it's probably going to be frowned upon. But I think if you can do it in a respectful way that people can understand where you're coming from and give some sort of shining of the light as to, hey, this is why I do it, that's when they start to understand it a little bit more.
Yeah. And I think, like, for me especially, just sort of being so new into it out of nowhere, I guess, with no other influence before the moment that I saw those guys get off the helicopter to where I am now, and how much I think about it. And I can't drive down a country road without looking up every creek or looking across. I wonder, you know, and just like, it's a bit sick, but it really takes over you, you know. And like, I just, like, if that's not instinctual, like if that's not something that's within us or something that's sort of who we are, I just don't feel like that I would have picked up a bow and been like, oh yeah, that was fun, put it down.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, if it wasn't, but because it is, it's like you pick up a bow and then it's like, obviously, like, after you've been doing it for a while, life gets in the way and you don't do it for a little while, you have a bit of a break, but then you pull it out, you pull it back, you shoot the target, and you're just like, oh, like, that feels good.
Yeah, definitely.
It's like, definitely need to start planning a trip or doing the next, like, thinking about the next thing, you know, like.
It's super consuming. Yeah, it's great. I think
such a healthy lifestyle.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think realistically the two biggest points I've definitely taken away from this podcast is ask more questions and ask for help, and then also get out and just do it more. Like, literally, that's what definitely helps people to grow. It's what's, I think, helps every single bow hunter that I've ever talked to is just more time in the bush. It definitely helps just to grow your experiences and really learn from the animals, learn from your wrongdoings, but also hopefully not even do the wrongdoings because you're asking the questions of everyone else.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, and you really don't know what you don't know, so just ask questions and ask questions about the questions that you asked, you know, and just, you don't realize, but like, the people that are in this community, they're so willing to help. Like, it's a family, 100%. Like, it didn't take long, and I sort of was, I don't know, I didn't expect to be so accepted, I guess, and so supported and encouraged from day one, you know, from everyone. You know, me putting up little photos of me shooting my first sows and stuff, like the people that started following me would be straight in my inbox, like, yes, Em, good job, you know, like, how was it about it? And like, yeah, they're just unreal. And I really hope that, you know, COVID can go away so that we can have some sort of event where we can all catch up and I can meet more of these people, because they're super special to me and I haven't even met them.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I think that's a great place to leave it, Em. So once again, your Instagram handle is at mcorbett93. Outside of that, I guess, is there anywhere else to follow along, or that's kind of the best place to get in contact?
No, that's it.
That's it. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. It's been super cool.
No worries, Matty. It was great chatting to you.
That wraps up this week's episode. Thank you so much for joining us, team. If you did have any topics, questions, or you wanted to suggest a guest for Becoming a Bowhunter, you can send me an email at matty@becomingabowhunter.com. If you are enjoying the show or you've enjoyed in particular episodes, please do me a solid and share it around with your friends. If you are not already, please hit the subscribe button, as the more subscribers we get, the higher the podcast gets ranked, and that definitely helps out for showing it to other individuals. If you are not already following me on Instagram, it's at becomingabowhunter.podcast. And on YouTube, it's Becoming a Bowhunter. Get out, team. Fling some arrows. Get that practice in and walk those yards in the paddocks until you find those critters. That is it for now, but not the last time that you'll hear from Becoming a Bowhunter.